What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we've got another fantasy football mock draft for you back on Fantasy Pros, where we're going to do a 10-team full PPR mock. We have the second pick overall, and our roster, as always, one quarterback, two running backs, two wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and then 5 bench spots. But that's pretty much it, so let's get right into it. And while we wait, a quick reminder, if you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. And let us hear in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have? We will do our best to answer them all. And also keep a lookout for the 2022 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide that will be dropping soon. More details to come, but that will be available in early June. But enough with that. Let's get into this mock draft. And we've got the second pick overall. And honestly, I purposefully went ahead and selected this spot primarily because, in my opinion, when it comes to the first two picks, especially if you're picking second overall, it's an either-or scenario. So it's honestly a win-win situation if you're picking second overall because it guarantees you're either going to wind up with A, Christian McCaffrey, or B, Jonathan Taylor. In my opinion, those are the two, if you will, like tier one running backs this year. You know, you could convince me to put Austin Eckler in that category for PPR scoring as well, but I do think Jonathan Taylor has a little bit of a higher upside, especially in terms of pure rushing, usage, touchdowns, and for that reason, you know, it's McCaffrey, then it's Jonathan Taylor for me. In this scenario, CMC goes first overall. That's what I would do. Again, you know, we're projecting all of these guys to play a full season. Whether that happens or not, we have to treat our pre-season projections as such. And in that scenario, McCaffrey is still the dude. So him going first overall, absolutely zero problem with that. And because of that, here we're going to go with Jonathan Taylor. Exactly like I said before, we're going to go with the guy that wasn't selected. So in this case, it's Jonathan Eckler. Now, this is a 10-team draft, so I do expect a situation where, you know, there's going to be teams that are pretty top-heavy. We're going to have our choice of a lot of good players, but let's see what the situation, you know, kind of looks like here. Let's look at the draft board to see if anything crazy has happened. So after our Jonathan Taylor pick, you see Austin Eckler, Najee Harris, zero problem with that. Then Cooper Kupp, Dalvin Cook. So similar to other years, you know, when there's one elite wide receiver, my guess would be that they're probably drafted in between probably the 4th to 7th overall selection, somewhere there in between. Cooper Kupp drafted 5th overall here, so that checks out. Then Dalvin Cook, then Joe Mixon, then Derrick Henry. There's a couple guys I'd be selecting ahead of Derrick Henry in full PPR scoring. Kamara, DeAndre Swift, for example. Aaron Jones probably even. Then Mark Andrews, the 109. Way too early for Mark Andrews. I say this every year, but in my opinion, taking a tight end in the first round is a reach. It really is. And here, especially when you can get Travis Kelce, I mean, the perfect example, who I still have as my number one tight end on the season. I think people are just a little bit too much recency bias with Mark Andrews almost a round later. Just a much better value, period. Then you see Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs. So a couple of pass catchers there. And afterwards, Kamara, Swift, Jamar Chase, Saquon Barkley. Again, early on Saquon Barkley, but, you know, the way the Fantasy Pros platform is built, the computers kind of go off aggregate rankings. So some people have Barkley higher, some people have him lower. I wouldn't have Barkley ahead of an Aaron Jones, who I might gamble here and potentially try to sneak a Deebo Samuel on my roster and then go Aaron Jones. We'll see if it pays off. I just feel like I've been taking Aaron Jones so many times in every single draft, but honestly, it's like Austin Eckler last year. More than anything, it shows you how much faith I have in the guy and how underpriced he currently is. But it's a mock draft, so I'm not really sweating it too much if we don't get Aaron Jones in the 3rd round. Honestly, we got to survive 2 picks. We'll see if it happens or not. So I'm going to go Deebo Samuel with one of these with our first selection to get that wide receiver there. He's got that positional flexibility. I think ultimately he stays in San Francisco. So we're adding Deebo Samuel to the squad. CeeDee Lamb would be the other wide receiver that I'm looking at, but I think Deebo Samuel maybe has a little bit higher of an upside when you factor in the rushing as well. Tyreek Hill, if he was still in Kansas City, sure, but that's not the case anymore. So I guess the takeaway, welcome to the squad, Deebo Samuel. Then cross our fingers, Aaron Jones is still there for us. So it's CeeDee Lamb, it's Tyreek Hill, the next two picks. That works out. We could go Keenan Allen here as that kind of PPR guy, but I'm going to stick with what I've been preaching, and that's Aaron Jones, getting him in the third round. Very, very good value. And afterwards, I think I'm going to benefit from the fact that the wide receiver position is a lot deeper, and we're going to have an option. It's somebody like a DJ Moore, a Michael Pittman. So let's see the way this thing played out in the next couple of rounds. After we went Aaron Jones and Deebo Samuel, you see A.J. Brown, Nick Chubb, Javonte Williams. So makes sense. Nick Chubb in full PPR scoring is going like in the third round. Completely makes sense. Javonte Williams in the third as well. Then Keenan Allen, Mike Evans, Cam Akers. Way too early for Cam Akers, in my opinion. That's a full-blown running back by committee. Then T. Higgins, Josh Allen, the first quarterback off the board. I like to see at least, here waiting until the end of the third round to draft a quarterback. Then you see Deontay Johnson, David Montgomery, George Kittle, Kyle Pitts, James Conner. Good value on James Conner there. Amari Cooper, Jalen Waddle, Breece Hall. Way too freaking early for Breece Hall. Are you kidding me? When Ezekiel Elliott is still available, I don't know how many more ways I can say that I disagree with that than what I just did. But, oh well. Right now, I would say our selection here is in between Zeke and probably Michael Pittman, and DJ Moore. I'm staying away from Chris Godwin just because the injury. Michael Thomas, it's still a question mark there how he comes back. If it was a round and a half later, then I'd take a chance on Michael Thomas. And I think we're gonna have a shot at guys like Marquise Brown and Mike Williams and Rashad Bateman, guys that I absolutely love in 2 rounds from now. I'm looking at tight end. I could potentially also go Darren Waller, kind of get that positional advantage. But just to show you guys our roster, we have 2 running backs, I think 2 stud running backs at that, and Jonathan Taylor and Aaron Jones. Both have week 14 bye weeks, but that doesn't really worry me too much. We've got Deebo Samuel. So here going a wide receiver or a running back is the way that I'm going to do it, and then probably address the other position for my next selection in the 5th round. So here, I'm just going to continue to build depth at the running back position. I'm going to get Ezekiel Elliott. I still think he has a top 10 running back season in him. Antonio Gibson, to me, that's like a running back by committee type of situation. Then, okay, so with the next 2 picks, you see DJ Moore, you see Justin Herbert. I wasn't really sweating taking a quarterback. I think I'll be able to get a fine one in, again, probably 2 rounds from now. It's a 10-team league as well, so don't forget that. We're going to have even more options at the quarterback position, so it's not going to get depleted as quickly. And with that in mind here, I'm going to take a little bit of a luxury pick probably. I'm going to go with Michael Pittman. Yes, I've already got Jonathan Taylor, so 2 Indianapolis Colts. Don't love that, but I really, really like the upside for Michael Pittman. And for that reason, I'm going to pull the trigger there. Other guy I would have been considering here is Darren Waller. Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray. I'm hoping maybe Kyler Murray can drop to us in the next round. If that happens, I'd be very, very happy. Probably won't, but, we can hope. I'm kind of curious how the quarterback landscape plays out. So here, I'm just going to go with Michael Pittman and get that second wide receiver for us. Let's go ahead and do that. And then see how this thing plays out afterwards. Man, Allen Robinson is still there. I absolutely love that value. So, again, checking in on the draft board here. we can do a little bit of calculation because we had a huge run on wide receivers. We get lucky there. You see Chris Godwin, DK Metcalf, McLaurin, Michael Thomas, Brennan Cooks, Cortland Sutton. Then go Patrick Mahomes, Antonio Gibson to end the 5th round. So Patrick Mahomes going in the 5th round, pretty crazy when you think about just 2 years ago how highly he was going. Then Josh Jacobs, J.K. Dobbins, again, more standard-suited guys. Elijah Moore, Juju Smith. There goes Darren Waller. I was hoping he could potentially make his way back to us. If he did, I would have gone Darren Waller. Then you see Lamar, Jerry Jeudy, Tom Brady. Look, guys, I get it. Tom Brady, he had a nice season last year, but when Kyler Murray is still available, please do not take Tom Brady ahead of Kyler Murray. Here, I'm very lucky because I know that I'm going to land Kyler Murray at the 702 because the team picking after me already has Justin Herbert. So they're not going on quarterback here. So right now I can afford to take best player available. And kind of looking at the list, I've told you many, many a times that I love Allen Robinson. I think he's going to be an awesome addition to that Rams offense. Okay, if Odell comes back, if he gets re-signed by them, then the upside is lowered a little bit. But I mean, this is that sweet spot, in my opinion, where you can load up on a bunch of dudes. Marquise, Robinson, Mike Williams, Rashad Bateman, all those 4 guys have wide receiver 1 upside, and it's the 5th, 6th round. So I'm going to go with Robinson here. I think he has the highest upside in PPR scoring. Pretty safe there. So we go with Allen Robinson. The next 2 selections, Travis Etienne, Darnell Mooney. Etienne was maybe in play, but I already had 3 very good running backs, so I wasn't really too worried. Now, again, somebody like a Mike Williams, very, very tempting, but I've already got 3 wide receivers, good ones at that, and Debo, Pittman, and Robinson. So I'm going to get myself the positional advantage at quarterback, and I think Kyler Murray absolutely does that for us. I have him as a tier 1 quarterback, and to me, it's, there's a drop-off afterwards. So let's see how this thing went in the 7th and 8th round. Kyler Murray, Treylon Burks, are you kidding me? I mean, I get it. He's supposed to replace, A.J. Brown, but it's not going to be immediate. Treylon Burks shouldn't be going ahead of Rashad Bateman or Mike Williams. Hell, even Drake London, another rookie, or Marquise Brown. I absolutely hate that selection there, so I just want to call it out. You see Joe Burrow, then Jalen Hurts. Good value on Hurts, depending on how you view him. Personally, I still think he's mainly a rushing quarterback. I don't buy into the fact that he's going to, all of a sudden figure it out as a thrower of the football. That's why I have him ranked a little bit lower, because if it wasn't for his rushing ability, the guy would be an afterthought, let's be honest. Then Dak, then Aaron Rodgers, Mike Williams at the end of the 7th, great value. DeAndre Hopkins, again, I continue to not understand how Hopkins, this needs to be adjusted, but I'm going to continue to call it out until it is. Hopkins, with a 6-game suspension, unless it's reversed, shouldn't be drafted ahead of Marquise Brown. So now with that in mind, I would have loved to pair Marquise Brown with Kyler Murray, a nice little, stack there, but it's all right. So instead here, again, looking at our big board, guys that are available, Tyler Lockett, no Russell Wilson, no thank you. Hunter Renfrow is really going to be competing for targets with the Raiders. I think he's in store for a huge decline. Devonta Smith, I'm not really all that interested. Here, for me, this is easy. I want a tight end. I'm a TJ Hawkinson believer. I was a Hawkinson believer last year. Yes, there will be less targets in Detroit. You've got DeAndre Swift coming back. Amon-Ra St. Brown, maturing. You've got Williams, who was just drafted. So there's gonna be guys that take away targets from Hawkinson, but I am a Hawk believer. So I like his upside. Other guys that I'd be considering are probably like Dalton Schultz and Goddard, but I'd rank them Hawkinson, Schultz, then Goddard. So I'm going to go with Hawk here, and just let me see. Yeah, the team before us could potentially snipe us with Hawkinson if we don't draft him right now. So let's pull the trigger on TJ Hawkinson, and yeah, so you see one of their picks was a tight end. I'm glad we went with Hawkinson, and now we can just go best player available. And honestly, looking at these guys, looking at the draft board, looking at the cheat sheets, Brandon Ayuk is somebody that's a little bit tempting. If something happens to Debo Samuel, hurt, traded, whatever the case might be. I think Brendan Ayuk is a good kind of insurance policy there. So I'm kind of leaning towards him. As far as running backs, Damian Harris, I get it, had a great season, more so in standard formats, and a lot of touchdown success. Now I think it's becoming even more of a running back by committee. So I'm going to stay away from him. As far as potential handcuffs, there is Tony Pollard if something happens to Ezekiel Elliott, but I'm not going to do that now. I'm going to go and take Brendan Ayuk, who I think has a little bit more value to me. So then let's see what happens. Maybe we can get Tony Pollard around later. Probably not. Probably wishful thinking, but it is what it is. I'm not too worried. Oh, he literally goes one pick before us. That's kind of funny. But now looking back at our cheat sheet, guys that are standing out, Rashad Penny, I'd be all right taking a chance on. I think Chris Carson is honestly done with his neck injury. I think that people are a little bit too excited about Kenneth Walker. So for that reason, I'm just going to probably take Rashad Penny here. He's got a little bit of a hamstring issue now, but I'm not too worried. He's got time to get better. So let's pull the trigger on Rashad Penny here as an upside guy. We've already got good depth at the position, so we're in a good spot. I think that's the takeaway here. And then let's see if any tight ends that we really like are left. I mean, there's Cole Kmet. I do like his upside as a guy that's going to get a lot of targets, but I think we could potentially get him in the next round. I'm looking at other guys. I really do like Allen Lazard as a potential breakout candidate. So let's add him here and then see what happens with our final selection. Cole Kmet is available, so that's probably going to be the pick that I go with here. Overall, since we're wrapping this thing up, I really like how our team turned out. We got TJ Hawkinson at the tight end spot. I think we got a good value on him. We're about to pair him up with Cole Kmet, who I have as one of my potential 2022 tight end breakouts. Curious to see what our grade will be. We got a B+. I'm actually not mad about that grade. I actually think it's rather accurate. Running back to me is a strength. We got Jonathan Taylor in the first round. Then we got Aaron Jones in the third round, which awesome. We also got Deebo Samuel, Michael Pittman, Allen Robinson. Look, if Zeke struggles, you look at my bench, Allen Robinson is very much so a startable wide receiver. So if something happens to Deebo, if something happens to Pittman, we've got Allen Robinson as a plug-and-play guy, high-end wide receiver 2, worst-case scenario. I like Brendan Ayuk, the little depth we got there with the San Francisco crew. Rashad Penny was kind of a speculative selection. Same with Allen Lazard, but a dart throw that I love nonetheless. And Cole Kmet, in terms of targets, he should have huge opportunities. I love the value we got on Kyler Murray in the 7th round. So I agree, honestly. I think that this was probably a B+ roster. If, the one thing I would have said, if we got maybe like a slightly higher end tight end, then it'd be a little bit better. But, instead of going with a guy like Michael Pittman, we would have had to select him in the 4th round or something like that, or Allen Robinson. So I can't knock it too much. I like the way this team turned out, but hey, let me know it in the comment section whether you agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have. I will do my best to answer them all. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in future videos.